guess what these seemingly random, chaotic lines represent? These lines seem to be without any sort of coherent order or purpose, unintelligent, nonsensical lines at first glance, and you would be correct in your initial estimation of those lines if that was your original take on it. What these lines represent will become clear through the course of this exercise in critical thought, using the aid of our astonishing technologies to fairly easily create complex animations based on theoretical models or just pointless squiggly lines. Apparently, not too many people have concerned themselves with considering the data encoded in these random lines. I would venture to guess not one graphic animator has been asked to create specific animations surrounding the behavior of satellite bodies orbiting larger, faster satellite bodies orbiting larger, faster central points of curvature known as the center of a galaxy, just as a random example of things which never seem to be animated. Can you guess what this lonely twirling and shooting around and spinning and turning sphere represents? I can assure you this isn't some screensaver or some newfangled form of Pac-Man. It's not some sort of aromatherapy for the eyeballs, or is it an interactive form of the game of life, or connect the dots. This amazing little orb is under constant flux, random, chaotic motion, which is often abrupt and seemingly unexpected, but at times very graceful and mysterious, certainly beautiful, and seems to have some unapparent purpose, then changes direction abruptly only to destroy any delusions of intelligent control, then again begins with a long, graceful arch in another opposite direction, never traveling across the same path twice, never stopping to rest, and beholden to some unseen force which will soon become apparent. Computers now allow us to create hypothetical models of hypothetical galaxies where we can virtually travel round thousands of miles in a few seconds, all made possible by modern technology, yet all made necessary by the unfortunate lack of monitors the size of a galaxy. And there are none, I checked. There's a monitor device named a Galaxy, but it's got one of the smallest monitors I've ever seen, so sort of counterintuitive, but false advertising seems like to me, but I digress. What is this random, bumbling, yet graceful and mysterious ball rolling around amongst all these other random, chaotic lines? Why am I asking so many questions? That's a good point. I'll cease with the rhetorical questions immediately. But why? No. There were many times I wondered during my imprisonment on planet Earth what would happen if something simply stood still. And let me explain what I mean. With everything in our lives in constant flux, from the cells in our bodies, the time of day, or the phase of the moon, or the time of the year, not to mention the face of the Earth constantly spinning eastward, the moon orbiting round us as we orbit round the sun, as it flies round the giant black hole in the center of the Milky Way galaxy, which actually doesn't exist, but just for the record. But we'll humor the theory for argument's sake. That is part of science. However, discarding failed theorem is the other part of science that most theoretical physicists don't like to participate in, because it means they need to put away the chest slapping and party hats.
Touchdown confirmed. First safe on Mars. Time to see where our curiosity will take us.
But with all this flux, all this constant and often contradictory motion, what would it mean to simply and completely stand still? I mean, absolutely still, totally still, not just still as the air during a morning in the valley of a mountain. Far more still than that, That very still valley air entering your lungs supposedly is traveling eastward 1,000 miles per hour as you use the Earth as a fixed frame of reference. Now, if you use the Earth's center of orbit or the Sun as a fixed frame of reference, then that mountain air entering your lungs is traveling over 5,000 miles per hour. But then, of course, if you use the Sun's path around the galactic center as the fixed frame of reference, or zeroing out of your speedometer based on the speed of the Sun around the galactic center, then the mountains, and by extension the still valley air you're breathing, will have traveled tens of thousands of miles before you could even exhale the air. But, of course, if you consider the galactic center as the ultimate fixed frame of reference, then by the time you finish watching this video, you will have traveled at least 250,000 miles through space in the direction of the constellation Hydra, according to some sources, and of course, according to the Big Bang heliocentric globe Earth/prison planet paradigm of yesteryear, which has gone the way of the dinosaurs so fast, it's actually given Barney thoughts of rekindling his career as a theoretical physicist. I think his chances are pretty good, too. I'm pretty sure that the purple dinosaur famous for dumbing down the youth of America every day, all day, for decades, could come up with a more plausible explanation of the creation of the world than our highly esteemed, mathematically brilliant, physically inept theoretical physicists who've always been put on pedestals for their fantastical theories, never ridiculed when proven wrong, but instead simply update or append their hypothesis to continue being correct and ultimately praised and perpetually correct forever. Theoretically, of course. Science was not a system developed to posture yourself as this correct beacon of truth forever, rather quite the contrary. The zetetic process, closely akin to the scientific method, or this beast formerly known as the scientific method, depending on how you look at it, zetetic is a method used by truth-seeking people who desire to find the ultimate truth within everything, which is, I believe, the driving force behind the human experience, and even science in its purest, most fundamental forms is in line with that notion. Theoretical physics has become a pop culture forgery of science designed to woo and wow the scientific community and ooh and ah the generally ignorant people of the world with all sorts of glitterily self-indulgent flights of fancy, running wild with assumptions and making huge leaps of conjecture and unfounded extrapolation of data seem to appear plausible using computers and different apparatus, but they arrive at solid scientific conclusions agreed upon by 9 out of 10 scientists surveyed, even though we only surveyed 2 and added a contrary opinion to the figure to give some semblance of validity and fairness to the study, but I digress. All of the theoretical hoop jumping and unrealistic, unfounded flights of fancy have been made totally believable, seemingly accurate thanks to the boon and bane of humanity's future as an intelligent race, the computer. Computers, and specifically computer-generated imaging, or CGI, is a double-edged sword in a sense that it can take a complex idea and showcase the data in such a way that is essentially accurate and easily understandable by a person with the ability to pay attention. On the other hand, CGI can also be used to take totally cockamamie ideas and blend them into a marvelous spectacle of human ingenuity, a tool which could be used to mislead the general population should a motivation for such an insidious plot arise, along with a secretive group of people willing to and callous enough to do so. If you consider the Big Bang Theory, not the television show with that weird kid from Roseanne, but the scenario involving the entire universe being created from a tiny, giant explosion, which has actually been thoroughly debunked, by the way. If you consider it, however, the entire universe has been constantly, ceaselessly exploding outward in all directions, emanating from a singular central point, which supposedly contained all the matter of the entire universe compressed into an area the size of a golf ball or a grain of sand, or possibly an area exactly the size of your brain if you believe this lie. A joke you certainly wouldn't get if it applies to you, so if you're laughing, kudos to you. But at any rate, I've always found this Big Bang Theory to be preposterous and unbelievable. However, I've been stuck with it my entire life, sort of like a never-ending belief in the tooth fairy, since it's been shoved down my throat as the truth for my entire rational adult life. But unlike the tooth fairy, my mom and dad and all my teachers actually believe in the Big Bang Theory, even without any evidence to support it, and contrary evidence all around us to debunk it. The Big Bang is most certainly a radical, unfounded, debunked theory. However, my lifelong heliocentric ponderings led me to reckon what would happen if something would simply stood still, completely still, here on Earth, for example. Well, I've given this a great deal of thought, and if an object were to stand totally still on planet Earth in the theoretical fantasy known as the Big Bang heliocentric model, it would be just like that made-for-TV Stephen King movie with asshole Balky, who likes to scare little girls and rip sheets of paper to annoy the shit out of people who had to sit through that awful, boring movie.
Business meeting in Boston this morning at 9 o'clock, and I forbid you to fly us into some whistle-stop Maine airport! Do you hear me?
Would you please be quiet? You're scaring the little girl.
Scaring the little girl? Scaring the little girl! Lady! We're diverting to some tin pod airport in the middle of nowhere! I've got better things to think about than scaring the little girl!
To annoy the shit out of people who had to sit through that awful, boring movie, which I've watched over a dozen times for some reason, but who knows why. It was terrible.